But they can do a real number on people, that's for sure.
I got the easy part.
No, I was just talking
I did it hit me.
So good morning once again, everyone. Let's get underway here. I have returned your quizzes to you. And, you know, overall, the quizzes were pretty good. So again, I'm really happy to see that. I was encouraged by that. There were several perfect quizzes, which was wonderful to see. So again, you know, keep that good work up, and you could sail right through up to the next test and through the next test. So yeah, let's hope that continues. The next thing I'd like to do is I'm going to actually show on my answer key on the document camera what you should have for your homework. Because, I mean, I know it wasn't really copied directly from the handout, but it was pretty close. Okay? So what I'll do is I'll do that, and then you can let me know if you have any questions. I do have the camera on, and I do have the TVs on already, so. The first one in the upper left, the descending fifth sequence, I hope. And again, your baseline can be in any octave. That's fine. But you need to start on A, you need to end on A, and the bass must go down by fifth and up by fourth. Down by fifth, up by fourth for the descending fifth harmonic sequence. And those should be the Roman numerals that you should get in the major key for a descending fifth sequence as well. And I think I put the Roman numerals on your handout, right? Below each example? Yeah, I think I did. Let me know if you have comments or questions. There are only 4 of these for now, but I think that's enough. Let me go across the page to the descending fifth sequence variant. This is the harmonic sequence where the bass line moves down by third and up by step, or up by second. And the Roman numerals for this one are the same as the Roman numerals for the descending fifth, except that every other chord in the variant is in first inversion. But it still goes 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. So you should start on F there, and you should end on an A, it looks like. Going down to the lower left, the ascending fifth sequence. The bass goes up by fifth and down by fourth, just the opposite of the descending fifth sequence. Up by fifth, down by fourth. So you want to start on E flat here. Again, any octave is fine. You need to end on an E flat, and those are your Roman numerals there. The Roman numerals there are the exact reverse of a circle of fifths progression, which is a descending fifth harmonic sequence. So it's something in order of Roman numerals, we very rarely write 1, 5, 2. You know, who writes music like that? Not me. But didn't we say that the functions of the chords are not really super important when it comes to harmonic sequences? And in the context of harmonic sequences, since the composer is focusing on the linear sequential motion of all the voices, we get strange chords, we get strange progressions, strange functions, odd things like that. And that's okay within the context of sequences. All right, and then finally, the ascending fifth, variant. Starts on B, should end on a D sharp. Bass goes down by second and up by third. And you can see the Roman numerals are the same as the ascending fifth sequence, the main one, except every other chord is in first inversion again. So I hope you have something very similar to that. Okay. Questions?
If there was something like this on the test, what kind of questions would we ask about it?
Well, okay. on the test, there could be things like, for instance, we haven't done any analysis of real examples yet, we're gonna do that today. But there would be like little snippets or passages of real actual music, and you'd have to look at the bass line in that music to find out what sequence or find out the pattern. And then based on the pattern, you need to know from memory which sequence type it is. Okay. That's gonna be the main thing of how I'm gonna do it. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, can filters like, for example, for distance, like start with that up by the third and then go down? Or does that have to do with that?
No, you can actually begin at any point in the sequence, and you can end at any point in the sequence. So for instance, a composer could start on a 5/6, and then go up a third, and then down a second, up a third, down a second. But the pattern still turns out to be the same.
Oh,
But yeah, in sequences, you can begin and you can stop them at any point. You don't have to go like a total of whatever, 8 notes or 8 chords like these do here. Yeah. Okay, now let's see what you think about this. I was hoping that I could collect your assignment and give you a completion grade. I'll do that in my office. I mean, I won't do it right now, but can I just collect that and I'll give you a completion grade? And, yeah. That'll be a nice grade for pretty much everyone then.
Actually, I switched it.
Read instructions.
Yeah,
Same thing,
Yeah.
instructions. And you're gonna send me yours.
I definitely, and I realized I messed up on the ascending variant.
Okay. All right, now that I have your papers, and let me take this away too. Let me ask you just a few questions. What is the bass pattern for a descending fifth variant?
Down by third, up by second.
That's right, down by third, up by second. Very good. Okay, I'm just checking to see how much you're getting here. What is the baseline pattern for an ascending fifth sequence? Okay, who said that? Thank you. Sorry, I can't see the mouse move, and sometimes it's muffled on. So yeah, it's up by fifth, down by fourth, or down by fourth, up by fifth. Same thing. Okay. Good. Which harmonic sequence's baseline moves down by second, up by third? That's right, ascending fifth variant. Very good. Which harmonic sequence's baseline moves down a fifth, up a fourth? Descending fifth. That's right. Yeah, and sometimes on the test, I'll get students, they're really close, they'll identify the sequence as a descending fifth variant when it's really a descending fifth. And you do get partial credit, but you do miss some points on that. So make sure you have your originals and your variants distinguished. I also wanted to point out, as I was saying before, odd chords can occur in harmonic sequences. And you know, most people don't even smirk or bat an eyelash or anything. It doesn't faze them. So for instance, it's not uncommon in a harmonic sequence to see a chord like this. You know, normally that chord is Barfaroni. You know, we would never use it. The kind of thing, I want to puke kind of thing. But in a harmonic sequence, this chord is fine. Even using this in root position, normally that would be unheard of, unthinkable in this class. But in the context of a harmonic sequence, we see that. That's okay. And is it true or false to say that variants of sequences change the inversion of every other chord? Would you say that's true or false? Variants of sequences change the inversion of every other chord. That's true. Because the regular normal sequences are all in root position, the chords, but the variants, every other chord is in first inversion. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, let's take this handout out now. Do you have the handout from last class? I would like to go to the back side since we didn't get a chance to do that. And I'd like to start applying this harmonic sequence information to some actual musical examples. And then I'd also like to listen to some, since I tried to get several of these on the back of your handout queued up on YouTube. Excuse me, we'll see how that goes in a moment. Let's go in, we're kind of, well, yeah, let's start at the bottom of the backside. Do you see where it says Bach Courant from Suite 2, French Suites? All right, what I'd like to do is, maybe you can see that there's the actual music by Bach there in the first grand staff, and then in the bottom grand staff there is a reduction, kind of taking out all the non-chord tones and all the rhythmic filigree, and just boil it down into block chords. Can I give you the Roman numerals for you to analyze under each measure of that reduction? Okay, does it say C minor there off to the left? The first measure, can you put a minor 4? The second measure, can you put down a capital 7 chord? Capital Roman numeral 7. Yeah, it's root position. Then the third measure, can you write down a capital 3? You know what, I should just do this up on capital 3, 6. Okay, so the first measure of that lower bottom example is this. Then the next measure, the Roman numeral should be capital 6 in root position. Then the next one, 2 minor 6. The next one, 5. And the last one is 1, 6. All right, now, this is going to be our first attempt at defining what the baseline pattern is, which will allow us to identify the sequence type. Okay, so let me ask you this. Look at your reduction there. Do you see how the bass starts by going from F up to B flat? That's F up. That's up a fourth. But then it goes down a third to G. Then it goes up a step to A flat, etc. Is the first chord part of one of the baseline patterns that we know? No, it's not. So I'm going to say that the first measure or the first chord of this example is not part of a harmonic sequence at all. The harmonic sequence hasn't started yet. But where do you see a baseline pattern that looks familiar? You see if you start by looking at the bass note with the second measure, what's the pattern that you get? Okay, down by third, up by second, right? Starting with the bass note of this chord, in the second measure, the bass goes down by third, up by second, down by third, up by second, all the way to the end. What I would like you to do is I would like you to circle the bass notes that form that pattern. Do that right on your handout. Start with the, what is it, the B flat? Over the 7th chord? Yeah. Circle just the bass note there, the B flat, and then circle the G in the next measure and the A flat, and so on and so forth, all the way to the end. I guess you could highlight it if you have a highlighter, but I tend to not have highlighters, you know, just on a whim, so I just circle the bass. I want you to circle this bass pattern. Okay, that's the pattern. That's the pattern that reveals the harmonic sequence in this example. Now, what harmonic sequence is Bach using based on that baseline pattern?
Descending fifth variant.
Descending fifth variant, yes. And I would write that somewhere near the example. That is an example of a descending fifth variant sequence. Because the bass goes down a third, up a second, down a third, up a second. Is it illegal that Bach starts the sequence with a 7 chord? No. That's okay. Bach could have stopped sequencing like with this chord or this chord, but he decides to just take it all the way to a 1. Okay, so it'll sound something like this. Let me start over again. Hard to separate it out, but can you hear the pattern? Kind of a nice sound. One last thing I want to say about this sequence before we move on to the other examples is that when composers use a harmonic sequence in minor keys, which this is an example of one in a minor key, composers use the scale degree, the lowered 7th scale degree, or te. Whenever it occurs in one of these chords, they use te until they get to the cadence, or they get to the basically the cadential dominant there. So let's see, how do I want to say this? Sequences in minor keys use te, that is the lowered 7th scale degree, until the end of the sequence, or until a cadence is reached, at which point T is used. You see, T has to be used to get your major 5 chord. But te, the crimped lowered 7th scale degree, that's used in this chord, that's used in this chord. He uses it throughout until you get to the end of the sequence, or until you get to a cadence. That's standard practice. How composers harmonize, how they get the chords in their minor key harmonic sequences. That's why we get capital 7s and capital 3s. But in the end, we get capital 5s, which use T. That's standard practice. Okay. All right, let's go to another example still on the back of your handout. Can we skip up to the very top one? Another Bach example, it says Bach Alaman. Now, I believe your handout tells you what sequence type is being used for this example, the descending fifth. You tell me, what is the baseline pattern for descending fifth? Down by what? Fifth, up by fourth. Okay. Now I'm going to want you to circle the bass notes that reveal this pattern. Is it going to be every single successive consecutive bass note? No, and that's one of the main things about when you analyze real passages for harmonic sequences. It's important to remember that the bass notes which identify the sequence type may not be consecutive in the music. You have to identify the bass notes where the chords change. Where the chords change, those are the bass notes that will reveal the pattern for the harmonic sequence you're trying to identify. Okay? So when you look at the left hand or the bass line of the top example, which bass notes are you going to circle? Did anyone find the pattern yet of down a fifth, up a fourth? Like for instance, in the first measure, you're going to circle that really high F, the first note in the bass, right? And then where's the next one you're going to circle? Isn't it the B flat on beat 3? Let me see if I can, maybe I should do it this way. Maybe I should do it this way. Remember, we're just in the bass class. See if this is going to show. Okay, do you see how I circled those first 4 bass notes? You see, the chord changes every 2 beats. There's a 4 chord there, a 7 chord there, a 3 chord there, a 6 chord there. And where the chords change, that's where you look for the bass note pattern. So you see how I circled F, then B flat, then E flat, then A flat? That is down a fifth, up a fourth, down a fifth, up a fourth. Keep doing that until you get to the end of the passage. Do you all see what I'm talking about now? Okay, so a couple things to observe. We know it's descending fifth sequence, it was told us that. We found the baseline pattern that reveals the descending fifth part of it. Look at the chord progression, or look at the Roman numerals. Aren't they all in root position like we expect for a descending fifth sequence? And he doesn't start with 1 in this example, he goes to the second chord, from the other side of your hand on, he starts on a 4. 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, right? You notice that, who can tell me what is te in C minor? What pitch?
B flat.
B flat. Do you see how he's got B flats in this chord and in this chord? But by the time you get over here, does he not use B natural now? Uh-huh. That's why you get the major 5 chord. He's raised the 7th scale degree to T, because he's reaching the end, or this list of the sequence, or he's reaching a cadence, what he's doing here. Okay. I have to take this off the screen in order to see if I can get some sound coming through here, but I did look this example up on YouTube. Let's see if we can hear this. Follow the top example. Heard stuff like that before? Yeah, I have, but I never knew what that was. And, you know, there are some really, I don't know, I find sequential passages, I find them very soothing to listen to. Because they're just, you kind of know what's coming, but you also relish and are satisfied by what's coming next in terms of the pattern, in terms of the harmony. At least that's what I find. I want to do that one again since it was so quick. Oh, here it is. Let me see if I can just back the track up just a little bit. Here it comes, right there. Come in there with the B natural. You can get that. All right, let's go to the next one. The next one comes from a Bach Little Prelude in C major. You can see that it's told you what is the sequence type for that example. Ascending fifth, correct? Now, are we going to circle every single successive consecutive bass note to find the pattern for an ascending fifth sequence? No. Can you find out which bass notes, though, you need to circle in order to get up a fifth, down a fourth, up a fifth, down a fourth? Can you kind of envision or see where the chords change? The chords change every 2 beats again, just like in the prior example. So, of course, circle the C, the first bass note in the example. What's the next one you're going to circle? Okay, the G on beat 3, the one a fifth above it, you see that? So skip the next bass note and circle the one after that. And then skip the next bass note and circle the one after that, and so on and so forth. And what you should get is you should get the circled notes C, up a fifth to G, down a fifth to D, up a fifth to A, down a fifth to E. Did you get all those? If you want to look at the other side of your handout for the ascending fifth sequence, what are the 5 Roman numerals that analyze this short passage, Little Prelude in C major? 1, followed by 5, followed by 2, followed by 6, followed by 3. I'm afraid to put this up on the screen, but I'll do it anyways, just because I don't know if this is going to prevent me from playing the rest of my sound file. There it is. You see the ones I've circled there? And how the Roman numerals, the chord progression, is exactly what it is for an ascending fifth sequence on the flip side of your sheet. They're all in root position, as they should be. This isn't too hard, huh? Cross our fingers here and hope that this comes through. Yeah, I want to try this one.
What if everyone gave you the value that the bit of our famous sauce?
Here goes. Okay, and so on and so forth. We just have like the first 2.5 bars of that. Can you hear the pattern? I mean, is it not repetitive? Let's hear it one more time since it's brief. Yeah, and they have some mordants and trills in the left hand of this, rather than what's written in your sheet there. Okay, one more to go on this sheet. This next one, the handle one, is one of my favorites. Okay, it says descending fifth variant. What's the bass pattern for that one? Tell me one more time. Down a third, up a second, down a third, up a second, down. You keep doing that and eventually the music will descend gradually. Okay? All right, now, circle the first bass note, it's in C minor, circle the middle C in the left hand. Where do you look for the next one? Where's the next bass note that's down a third? The first note of the next measure, right? And then where's up a second? The first note of the next measure. In other words, if you circle the first bass note in every measure, you've got the pattern revealed. Okay, so there's the first of it right there. Notice that every other chord is in first inversion, just like the Roman numerals on the other side of your sheet for the descending fifth variant. Handel starts this on 1. He actually ends it on a 1, if you'll permit me to do that. We're in C minor once again. I don't know why a lot of these are in C. Well, they just happen to be. Does not Handel use B flats here to get capital 7 and capital 3? He uses B flats in those measures. But when he gets to the cadence, to the end of the sequence, look at all the B naturals that start appearing. Does Handel know what he's doing? Yeah, I think he does, yeah. So you could get the Roman numerals for every measure of this example just by looking at the Roman numerals for descending fifth variant and changing them to minor. Because the one on the other side is major, but this one's in minor. Okay. Hopefully this will play. This one is one of my favorites. Let's listen to this one. Here it is. Okay, so let's listen to that again. If you follow along in your score, you'll be able to follow, especially the bass. I don't know, I mean, if you can follow all the filigree going on in the violins up above, you know, that's really great. Give me a... There we go. You hear the bass? Okay, anyways. I think it's never knew what all that stuff was, but there's a method, there's a compositional process, there's really stuff happening here, and unless you understand what's going on, you have no clue, and you can't really appreciate what the composer's doing at that point. And again, I think that some of the passages of sequences, there's some of the most pleasant sounding passages in all of music. That's what I kind of feel. Alright, so it's nice to really bring this sequential stuff alive, to really hear it in action in real music. The next thing I need to do is I need to take the last, we got 15, a little more than 15 minutes. I need to tell you a little bit about what you need to know for part rating a harmonic sequence. Okay, part rating a harmonic sequence. And for that, I'm going to use the example that I started up on the board. Okay, we know from last class that in a harmonic sequence, a pattern is established and sequenced in all of the voices of the texture, right? The soprano, the alto, the tenor, and the bass. All the voices of the texture undergo their own melodic sequence. So if we were to part write a harmonic sequence, we would need to carefully part write each voice of the first two chords, because that's going to create the initial model or pattern that's going to then be repeated at different pitch levels throughout the sequence. Okay. So can you imagine, if I part wrote in four voices the first two chords here, which are going to be the model or the original pattern from which all of the other sequential sections are going to be developed. Can you imagine if I wrote a bunch of part writing errors in the first two chords? You see how then the part writing errors of the first two chords would be repeated again here when it's sequenced, and again here, and again here, and until the sequence ends. And instead of having one set maybe of parallels or augmented seconds, you'd have 5 bajillion. No, not that many. But I mean, it would just multiply. And you'd have many, many, many errors for again, points to lose, and you don't want that to happen. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to part write a descending fifth variant sequence in a minor key that ends on a predominant chord, which is going to be right about here, and then it leads smoothly into a common cadence. So, you help me with the Roman numerals. The first one is 1. The next Roman numeral is going to be a 4, but in first inversion. I've already got the bass. Oh, by the way, do you see the bass line pattern? Down a third, up a second, down a third, up a second. Okay. What's the next Roman numeral supposed to be? Capital 7. The next Roman numeral? Capital 3 in first inversion. 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2. Okay, so the next one will be 6. The next one will be 2 in first inversion. And then what I decided to do is I decided to break or stop the sequence right here. And the reason I stopped sequencing is because I want the freedom to be able to cadence using normal standard chords. I don't want to be caught up and restricted to the same bass pattern and the same pattern of Roman numerals over and over and over again. I want to stop. So this is what I ended up doing, is we're going to harmonize it like this. Here's a standard cadence, 1, 6, 4, 5, 1. In the key of D minor. So this much here, up to the dotted line, that is all descending, what did I say it was? Descending fifth variant? This is all descending fifth variant sequence. After the dotted line, I call it common cadence. That's what I'm doing to make this whole part writing progression example turn out. Now, I'd like to take you through the part writing example. Let's make sure that we get the first two chords. Let's make sure we get them part written pretty solidly. Because again, if we have any errors in here, it's going to show up in each sequence. So let's try something like this. How does this look? My 1 chord, does it have the right doubling? D, F, A, D? No. My 4/6 chord? G, D, G, B flat? Do I have any parallels? No, I don't. Basically, I'll let you know that the first 2 chords, which are going to serve as the model for the rest of my sequence, there's no part writing errors in here, and that's what you want to start out with. Okay. Now, remember that I need all the voices to be sequential, at least up to this point. After this point, I can just do regular part writing. I'm not restricted to sequential notation. So, my question is, could I do something like this in the soprano? F, G, up a step, that's my model in the soprano. And then it starts a step higher, G, A, and those fit into the chords, right? If I continue that process, then I have to go A, B flat. Does that work out though? No, you see how the A is not going to fit in this chord when I get there? No, so that's not going to work. And do you know why, one of the reasons why it's not going to work, even though I'm trying to make it sequential, is because you see how the left or the bass line, it goes down a step each time. Those 2 are a step lower than these 2 are a step lower than these. So that means because the bass is going down a step gradually, all the voices need to move down a step gradually, not the other direction. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but. So instead of G, A, this is F, G, I'm going to do down a step, E, F, right? And this is going to work out now until I get to the end of the sequence. So this one has to be then D, E. And this one can be, well, this one we're going to be out of the sequence, so we're going to be at 1/64. We'll be out of the sequence by that time. Okay. Now, you tell me, what is the alto line going to look like up until the end of the sequence? Follow the pattern. What are the next 2 notes I write for the alto?
2 C's.
C, C, that's right. And the next 2 notes I write for the alto so that they stay sequential are 2 B flats. You're going to find out that all these notes fit in the chords. And there aren't going to be any part writing errors because we ensured that there wasn't going to be any. Okay, you tell me what's going to be the pattern, or what are the tenor's next 2 notes going to be?
G and F.
G and F. And then the final 2 notes or the next 2 for the tenor? F and F and E. And then my sequence ends. But do you see, I started out with a 2-chord pattern. I made sure the part writing was correct. And then to get the remainder of the sequence, I just make sure I sequence each line melodically. Okay? So this is a sequence right here in the dotted rectangle. This is a sequence of the original in the dotted rectangle. And then I stop my sequence. But it's almost like everything is I don't want to say predetermined, but it's laid out for me if I follow the pattern. Okay? All right, now, that's the main part. Let me just finish up with just normal part writing here to finish the progression. What do we double in all 6/4 chords? No, actually, all 6/4 chords do double the bass. All second inverted triads. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an A here, because I'm coming off of a B flat from the alto, and I'm going to put an F here. And then how do we part write 1, 6, 4 to 5? Well, we keep the common tone stationary. I'm going to leave that the same. The other 2 notes come down by step. And what do I need to do to this note in the soprano to make it a capital 5? Since I'm in a minor key. Remember these things? Yeah, some of these details, they still stick with us. Okay? And so then I'm going to just finish off with that. Now I know there's a lot of that. I should use different colors or something, but we designed this so that there's a descending fifth varying sequence from the beginning all the way up to this chord. The last 3 chords, just a standard cadence. Because this part is sequential, we got to make sure that the part writing between the first 2 chords, which is our model from which all the others grow out of, that there are no errors here. Because if there's an error between these 2 chords, then the same error will pop up between these 2 chords, and the same error will pop up between those 2 chords, as long as the sequence continues. But once we're sure we're free of errors, then make sure that you follow the pattern. Every voice has to do its own sequence. So this goes up a step, and this one, these 2 go up a step, these 2 go up. I don't know, do you see the pattern? Maybe I'm trying to over-explain. Maybe I should do that. And I knew that my soprano, I try to get the soprano line in first after the bass, by the way. I knew my soprano line couldn't start going up, because that's the other direction, the opposite direction that the bass is moving. And all voices need to move kind of in the same general direction for a sequence. Okay, let's go ahead and listen to this one now. Let's see what monstrosity we created. No, it's not a monstrosity. It should sound pretty good if we get it right. We're in D minor to start. Well, we're in D minor to finish. I can even hear or see some places possible where to add in either suspensions or maybe a secondary chord. Like for instance, in the second measure, after this is the first measure. After the 2 diminished 6, I can hear this secondary chord coming in right here. It's a 7 diminished 7 of 5. And then go to 1, 6, 4, and I can hear a suspension. Look at the wonderful sound we're creating, and we're doing it all by the book because we understand what's happening here, what needs to go into this. And, yeah. Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments or concerns? All right, then I think I got through everything I needed to. Now your homework for next class is another handout. And in this handout, you're going to have to do a little bit of part writing in a sequence. So you're going to have to follow the pattern that's started for you here. Oh, I forgot to give you that. Hang on a second. Can I give you, since we still got, can I give you one handout first and then the one? This is just an in-class handout. I was going to give you, this is going to give you tips for part writing, harmonic sequences. The top half will give you all these wonderful tips. As you get this, take a look at the top half. It says, what are the basic rules for part writing chords within harmonic sequences? And it says, number 1, you can use unusual inversions. You can use unusual progressions. You can use unusual doublings. You can use all those things in harmonic sequences. But notice what you cannot use, or what you cannot write in harmonic sequences when you're part writing them. You cannot write parallel octaves, fifths, or unisons. You cannot write melodic augmented seconds, and you cannot write other augmented intervals in upper voices. Okay? So basically, the top half of this handout tells you Okay, when you're part writing within a harmonic sequence, those bullet points on the top, you can do those things. These 3 bullet points right here, you still cannot do these things, even in a harmonic sequence when you part write. So please have that out, maybe so you can reference that when you're doing your next homework assignment. And that is right here. Okay. This is just one side of a sheet of paper for Wednesday. All right, guys, that's all for today. Thank you.